Hey you guys, welcome back to So Can You. Today I'm going to be making a tie-up romper, and if you follow this step-by-step tutorial, so can you. The pattern I'm going to be using is the Wren romper pattern. It's a new pattern from Samantha Marie Design, and I will link that pattern in the description of this video. The version that I'm going to be doing, I will be doing the woven version with the shorts with ruffles. So let's talk about the pattern pieces we need. You'll need to cut 2 of the body pieces. I've cut 2 here. You want to make sure that you are cutting the leg piece on that ruffle leg line. It is the top one. The front is the back and the back is the front. I have both of mine here. Right sides together already. Then the next thing you want is 2 of our necktie pieces. And then we'll want 2 arm bias binding pieces. And then we'll need our 2 ruffle pieces. And these are cut on the fold here. You can see they're pretty long because we will gather those up before we attach them. Okay, so let's talk about the first steps we want to do in creating our romper. The first things we want to do is sew the front and the back pieces together. And we will do that by sewing down the side seams, the crotch seam, and the other side seam here. So I'll do that now. Okay, so I've sewed down the sides and the crotch seam, and what I did, because this is woven, I did sew a straight stitch here with my sewing machine, and then I finished the edge with my serger. So now that we have sewn our front and back pieces together, the next thing we want to do is, I'll move this out of the way, and we want to get our pieces out that are bias for our underarm and the necktie pieces. We want to get those out, and I'll show you how I prepare these to be sewn. So here we have our necktie pieces and our 2 arm bias pieces. What we're going to want to do first is fold all of our pieces in half and press them, just like this. And we're going to do this with all 4 pieces. So I have ironed all of these. I have pressed them, and what you're getting is this nice crease right in the middle. And if you don't have this, this really helps. It's called Best Press, and you literally spray it on there, and it helps, you know, your pieces stay nice and crisp. So what we're doing next is we are going to fold the side pieces in onto that line, and then we are going to press those down, and then we're going to fold that line over again and press that line back in with the sides folded and crisp, just like this. And we'll do the same thing to all 4 of our pieces. Okay, so I've done that, and I'm going to open this up and show you what the first step in this looks like. So it looks like this first. Okay, you can see the crisp edge that you make. So you press those sides first, and then you fold that original line back and press it again. And that is going to create your bias, and then this here is your neckties, which we will set aside for now and focus on these 2 binding pieces. Let me grab our romper. These are going to go on our underarm. Now, if you are doing the knit version of this, all you're going to do here is turn this in and hem this, but that's just harder to do with woven. So we are going to add a bias to this underarm here. Basically, we are going to open this up and clip this in place, and then we are going to sew this on, covering up the raw edge of our underarm. See? And just fold it over right on that crisp edge, and then clip it in place. And you will do that all the way down, and we will repeat the same thing on the other side. Now we're going to just take this to our sewing machine, and using a straight stitch, we are going to stitch this down to both sides of our romper. Once you've done it, it looks just like this. Mine is not perfect because I'm fairly new to woven, but it looks just like that when you've sewn it on, or better if you're good at straight stitch. So we have enclosed those underarms, and the next step is going to be to make our casing for our neckties. We are going to want to do a 1-inch casing, so we're going to fold this over 1 inch and just measure on the sides. You can use a ruler or your cut mat. Just want to make sure you're creating a 1-inch casing, and your neckties are just going to go right through there. The first thing that I like to do is finish this raw edge. I like to serge this first so that it's finished and won't fray or anything like that. So I am going to serge it here. So I've just serged the raw edge, and I cut off a little bit of that extra bias that I had on that one side. And I'm just going to trim these tails off of here. And then once I get these all trimmed, I will press my seam allowance down. See, just like this. So I just kind of folded that over and pressed it so that it would just create a nice inside edge for my casing. So what we want to do now is clip our edges, and then clip. So we want to, clip it all down. We want to measure and make sure that we're at the 1 inch. You can use your cut mat or whatever you want. And we'll clip the sides first, and then I will clip all the way down the middle. So it looks just like this once you have all the clips in place. And I like to leave these clips on as I sew this because they're not going to get in the way of my sewing machine. And essentially all we're doing here is using a straight stitch to create a casing for our neckties to go through. So we're going to stitch right here with a straight stitch all the way across that 1 inch allowance to create our casing. Now, at the same time that I stitch across right here, I'm also going to take my straps to the sewing machine, and just like we sewed on the bias, we're just gonna use a straight stitch and sew the 2 open ends closed, because that's what's gonna go through our casing to tie the front and the back. Okay, I want to point something out here really quick because I screwed up. I did rip this one apart. It's so much nicer if you fold that little edge in. See this? I did not do that on my, I could have done a better job if I would have pressed it, but I did not do that on my first piece, and I was going to just turn it over and sew it down, but I think it looks nicer like this. So you want to fold that edge in before you sew on both sides. Okay, so now that we have done our straight stitch on our casing here, see, we've created this little hole for, I've done it on the front and back, for our straps that we just created to go through, and just trim these edges off if they look like there's excess thread, because you do want to make sure that you are back stitching, because there's nothing that's going to cover this side up to hold it together. So you do want to make sure that you are back stitching. Now we want to get our strap through our casing. I like this little tool. I will link it in the description of the video. It is so handy. You can just stick it through a casing, a straight casing, and hook it on to your strap or elastic if that's what you've got going on, and pull it straight through so fast. And you just pull that through, and then you've got your strap in place, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. And once we get this other shoulder strap in place here, what we're going to do is tie the fronts to the backs, creating our shoulder straps. And you can really tighten these or tie these as tight as you want or as loose as you want. Makes the fit of this pattern really flexible, which to me as a mom means extended wear. So you can, you know, tie it up tight to start, and as your kiddo grows, you can loosen these straps and wear it for a longer period of time. So super cute. So now we are pretty much on our last step, which is to attach the ruffles to our leg holes. This is one ruffle piece here, and we are going to be gathering this. We'll sew it together first and gather it, and then we will attach it to the opening of our leg hole here. The first thing that I like to do when I am attaching the ruffles is I like to go ahead and hem both of my ruffles before I start. I like to start by serging the one side of the raw edge, and then I will press that over. I'll just fold it over once I've serged it, just like this. It's just a quick serge. I didn't cut anything off. I'll fold it over and press that to create that crisp edge, and then I will straight stitch it just like this to hem. So you've just done a straight stitch all the way down to hem. So the next step is going to be to fold these together. So we're going to do right sides together, and we are just going to sew together the raw edges here, making our complete ruffle. All right, so it's going to look like this. Here you can see the seam right in the middle. I serged mine, and then I just top stitched down with my sewing machine the seam allowance. It's not beautiful, again, because I'm not perfect with my sewing machine, but you just want that seam allowance to lay down like this. That set us up to gather this raw edge here to fit our leg holes. That's going to actually create our ruffle here. So you'll just want to gather these up using your favorite method. I used my serger to gather, and I do have a video to use your sewing machine, and I will link that in the description. But this is mine gathered, and it's pretty much gathered right now to the perfect size. I'm going to use this side seam. I'm going to attach that to this side seam of the romper. And then you're just going to clip or pin your ruffles all the way around, and you can adjust your gathers if you need to. I lucked out. Somehow I used my serger on these and they ended up pretty much perfect. So you'll just want to clip your gathers right on to your leg band. To your leg opening, excuse me. And then you will just sew those on, which is going to close up our leg. So here's both sides clipped. All you're going to do now is just serge these two raw edges closed here all the way around. You're just going to serge those on, and it's going to create this nice little ruffle just like this. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like once you have serged this on. Super cute ruffle. I did leave this tail here. I like to use a nitpicker to pull my tails into my serge seam. You just slip it in between the front and the back fabric that you've serged, right in the middle of the two fabrics, and then push it out when you get close to where the tail is, and it's got this little hook on it, and you just use that to grab on to the serger tail and then pull it through, which basically just helps secure that seam. Okay, just pull it right in there. Then you don't have to top stitch over it or anything like that. And then you just trim that right off. All right, so the next step then is going to be this is optional, but you want to, I don't think it's optional for me. You want to top stitch right here, this ruffle down so that it lays nice and flat. See, look how much nicer that looks once you have top stitched it down. And it is just a straight stitch on your sewing machine to just basically top stitch that seam allowance down so that it's not going to flip up when the garment's being worn. And with that, you guys, we're all done. That was such a quick and simple sew, and this is a great pattern if you've never done woven before. This is so super cute, and I know my girls are going to be wearing this all summer long, and so quick, so I'm about to make 100 more. Today I made a tie-up ruffle shorty romper, and if you follow along with this step-by-step tutorial, so can you. Thanks so much for tuning in. Join me next time. Bye.